Hare Krishna, welcome to Thriving Bhakti. Badra Sane here. Today we want to discuss around an important ingredient that's really key if you want to be honest where you are and you want to progress. So many devotees around the world are struggling with their sadhana. Some way we should be struggling. We're always struggling in bhakti, somehow or other, struggling to please Krishna. But we've got to look at our own individual life and just try to see how our core habits are doing. And some of us are overwhelmed, we're busy, we've got so much happening. We're losing track, this is the key word today, of where we maybe were. We're losing track of where we are. And we have no idea of how we can move forward. And today I'm going to give an example. It's going to seem quite mundane. We're talking about finances. And it's going to be a great example that will definitely help you get the mindset and the lens to look at the areas in your life, in your spiritual life and your material obligations that you need to improve and how to do it. And it always begins with how you think. Yeah. So the number one mantra I always say is all the issues and problems you have come from a mindset issue, not necessarily a practical issue. All right. So here's the example. And this example, although it's kind of mundane, we're going to talk about finances. You can apply it to any area of your life right now, whether you have poor sadhana, you have poor chanting, your relationship and your spouse is not going well, your relationship with certain devotees, your services, your puja, even at work and your obligations and how you're getting on with colleagues and your time management. All these kinds of issues that devotees have to juggle, these challenges in life, stem from a mindset issue shift is needed in order to address them. So this analogy, this example, is going to help you that you can apply this template to any area of the any areas we just mentioned. Okay, so if that's you out there and you really want to like move forward somewhere in your life, this is for you. So outside of what I do as a devotee, I deal with budgets. I take people through and I help people get their financial positioning good. So what do we do? This is very common. So imagine these people I get involved. You can imagine it's like a devotee. Some of them are devotees. And I say to them, let's have a meeting and let's have a catch up. And you bring to the table what your income is and where your money is going. Now, some will be very diligent, but most will just come in and say, well, this is kind of where our money is going. This is kind of what this is the mortgage, the main things. And these are the main things we're paying for: the car, the house, the mortgage, and the bills and the rent and stuff like that. And then I say, awesome, that's great. That's a start. So let's now get into the micro details. Okay, so what are you spending when you're driving around at work and at lunchtimes and stuff? Are you popping in and getting some chips and a drink? Or do you have any subscriptions and apps you have? And we get down to these $5 things, $5 there, a little $7 here. Oh, every week I like to get a new t-shirt, or I like to buy flowers. And there's all these little things, right? I wanted to get a little extra gift, a little air freshener for the car or something, right? Some little what seems very small things. And when we add them all up, it's really incredible. And then we get into like yearly things. So are you going to the end of year retreat, festivals you go to? Are you going traveling? Okay, what's your doctor's expenses each year? Do you how much are you going every year on average? We get into your insurances and everything. And once you've got that whole thing on a piece of paper, we have an Excel sheet. You get to see, and it spits out all your income, all your weekly expenses, your monthly expenses, your yearly expenses, right? And it spits out in one little box whether you are going into debt, you have any money left over at the end of the week, or whether you are making money or you're just getting by. And it's incredible how most of those budgets come to a deficit because they're not aware that there's all these other things. They say if you don't know where your money is going, right, it will go somewhere. So when you know where your money is going, you can direct your money where you want it to go. And that's how you become more financially savvy. That's how you learn to budget. We don't learn these things in school, you see. This way of thinking, right? Tracking everything, monitoring everything. Srila Prabhupada As we know, if you read the Leland Rita, he would track every penny, even stamps or a little money that went to pay for a stamp to send an envelope. He was keeping a little. They found Prabhupada was tracking all the finances, everything that was going on. Prabhupada knew. Okay. So we're following in that spiritual entrepreneurial mindset because it's the mindset for success. Awesome. So that budget, what is it? We go through that budget and we start to see how small amounts add up. I'll give you a really good example. About a year ago, I was in the mall and I was just trying to find some vegan shoes, non-leather shoes. And there was a stall in the middle of the mall. And there was a nice young South African young lad working there in his mid-20s. And we got chatting and everything. And I got to build a little friendship with him, built some trust. And then I asked him, so what do you do? And what are you looking to do? He said, well, I want to get my own business. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah. I said, how's that going? He said, well, I'm kind of struggling. He's got to save money and it's kind of hard, but I'd like to have my own shoe shop. And I said, and I noticed he had a coffee in his hand. And I'd been learning a few things at that time. So I said to him, do you mind if I ask you something? He said, what's that? I said, how many coffees do you have a day? He said, oh, one, maybe two. I said, how much coffees do you have in a week? He said, so if you have like one or two a day, that's maybe, 10 a week? He said, yeah, maybe it could be around that. I said, how much do they cost? He said, $5, around $5. I said, wow, that's $50 a week, right? He said, yeah. I said, what's that in a month? And I saw his eyes. He's go, that's $200 a month. So what's that in a year? It's close to $2,500 a year. He's like, oh, yeah. So I said, you see, if you do have the money and you can if you track that money and where all your money is going, you can save up enough money to start a business or at least get a mortgage on a house over the next 3 to 5 years. It's like, wow. So I said, what did you have for lunch? And his face just lit up. $10, $20 a day on lunches. That adds up to $3,000 or $4,000 a year. It's now adding up to $5,000, including the coffee and this and that. You're talking about 10 grand. In 5 years, you could have 50 grand. So that's just on those small expenses. So why am I giving this example? It's the same with our habits in spiritual life. It's the same with our reading, our chanting, our relationships with our spouse or in the brahmachari ashram. Are we tracking the small things every day that could be taking away from the investment we're trying to achieve, the goal we're trying to achieve, or is it going to move us forward? Because that's one thing we do in the Thrive Bhakti program. It's an environment where we can apply all these things, but one of the key ingredients we apply is tracking. Every 30 days to 90 days, we track on a sheet what's happening, and that's really key. Tracking is really key, and that means we are transparent. We look at our sadhana over the last 30 days. If I was to ask you, how much did you read this on this day last week? How much did you do? If you're struggling with your rounds, like how did your rounds go at the beginning of June? Oh, I don't know, kind of like with your finances, right? But it's going somewhere. Your time and energy is going somewhere. So you've got to know how can you track that so you can then change. So if you did a budget of your sadhana, what would that budget sheet look like? Let's be honest. Okay. So tracking is key. Just like doing a financial positioning, you need to do a spiritual positioning and you need to track it. So every month I go over my finances. What's changed? What needs adjusting? What started to leak out? Is there more money coming in than going out? Can we apply that same principle that Srila Prabhupada demonstrated with our spiritual life as well? That can include relationships. Like, how is the relationship right now with the other devotees or the devotees you live so closely with or with your spouse? And you think, so what am I doing every day that's investing into it in a negative way? What things can I track every day that would add value to my relationship? Like saying nice things to my wife, supporting her, encouraging, be more loving, more caring. What does that look like? And then you can track how that over 30 days. So next 30 days, I'm going to do this, and this. And of course, the habits have to be specific, but the key today is tracking. High-level athletes all have, especially today with technology, they track all their outputs, inputs, kilojoules, the right, like the distance and what they're going to need to achieve for the next race coming up, what the level of training. They have mentors who coach them how to keep up that rigor, to build them slowly towards the main goal. So that comes into the goal setting side of my podcasts and videos. Is that's also important, which is we're not going to discuss so much today, but you have to have clarity around the goal that you're trying to achieve. I want to have a better relationship. I want to have an hour's reading every day in 90 days from now. And then we slowly build up to that, and by tracking that over that period. So obviously you wouldn't start with an hour a day. If you're only doing 1 minute a day, you maybe start with 5. And you track that. Can I do that for 2 weeks? Okay. And you can see. And the thing about tracking is it tells you where you're really at. You can't, just like with the budgeting, when people sit down and we do a budget, the facts don't lie. I mean, that's where the money is going. That's what you, so I've got the sun coming in and out today, but the tracking doesn't lie. It tells you where you are. And after 30 days, you're not going to remember how everything went, but you can get that sheet on your wall and you go, wow, I've been tracking this. I can see now that I'm getting wins. I've done 5 days better chanting in the first week. I got 6 days of doing the right chanting, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's the beauty of the tracking, is that you can see your progression and where you're heading to. Because if you don't know where you're heading and what your goal is, who does? So today I want to give those examples of a budget. And I want you to use that as a template to think about, how is my japa budget? How's my japa going? Quality and quantity. How is my rising times, getting up in the morning, bedtimes? Track those things. And if you see that it's struggling over 30 days, I'm not getting it to bed on time, you've got to then address what are the things you're doing that's making that happen, and make a plan to put things in place to make it happen. And then track it and see if there's progress. Test things. So we have to be proactive and conscious before we're Krishna conscious. And we have to be proactive in making change. That's the thing. It's not, our issues and challenges are not going to go away by some magic formula. They go away by applying these success principles, and they begin with a success mindset. So if you are unfamiliar to tracking, and the tracking is a kind of thing that you would feel important in your life, and you want assistance with that, that's why month to month I take on some new persons within the program. So if that's an interest for you, please, you can contact me. If you like these, hearing more, and you're going to go away and put in some tracking, I have some more videos of that coming up, and some on the way that will help you. So you can subscribe. So click and subscribe now and stay in touch. And I also have the Thriving Bhakti podcasts that are that you can go on Spotify, and so they're audios rather than videos of lots of topics that I cover to help devotees, to give them the skill set and the mindset so they can become thriving sadhakas they know they can be. So if it's something you want to get involved, let me know. Otherwise, think about tracking, do some budgeting, sit down and think about how are things going. So I would suggest just targeting one area of your life right now. It could be just like, I get up late irregularly. So track that. What's happening? Okay, why is it I'm not getting up? Is it something I'm doing in the evening? Am I overeating? Am I going to bed too late? And then track a new habit that will help change that. But tracking is key. It's if you're going to be a serious spiritual athlete, you got to get into tracking. And tracking means transparency, means being honest, and it's about just making small improvements. And by knowing that those improvements are happening, you know you're heading towards your goal because it's on paper. If you do it on paper. All right, so I hope that was helpful. If you like these podcasts and videos, then please subscribe below and make a comment below. That would be awesome. I'm your servant, trying to help devotees who are struggling or overwhelmed or want to move forward in their lives. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.